really still morning. Just keeping quiet for a second, see if we could hear any alarm calls or whatnot. Good morning, Miss Chin from Dallas, Texas. Miss Chin would like to know, what is the #1 killer of hyena cubs? More than likely, it is lions. Lions are definitely the #1 killer of hyena cubs. And it's normally when they're about this age that they start meandering with the adults. That is when they become targets. So if the hyenas are out foraging, and at this age they often go with, and obviously they're not quite as fast and as adept as the adults at getting out of the way of lions. Well guys, we've had such a great start here. There are other vehicles that are wanting to come into the sighting, so we've had it all to ourselves. So I think this time we're going to head on and leave the hubcap thief and the latest edition with its mom. The little guy's gone back into the den and I think is suckling just from the way mom's seeing, and we're not going to be able to get a visual of that. So I think it's time to head out and see what else we can find. Thank you very much to Pat, Connie, Sharon and John, who have confirmed that brown hyena sighting was actually Peter Pretorius Rexon, and it was in May 2009 and it was on Juma. Well, there's a challenge. Hey, wildebeest, let's go find a brown hyena. Wow, I'd be so excited if we found a brown hyena. He has some luck with those tracks, and we'll be back with you a little later.
Welcome back everyone, and good to hear that the hyena cubs have been really playful and inquisitive this morning, so it sounds like you've been having a great time there. As you can see, I'm off the vehicle. A leopard has been moving in this general direction towards us, and we looped around to see if the tracks would come out of the block, and basically it would have walked along this pathway, and then the tracks have continued down to just in front of me here. It looks like a female. It could be a young male, so I'm a little bit unsure. But here you can see the tracks, the toes in the front, and the pad at the back heading in that direction. So it is in the direction. And the dam where we've just been at. So we're going to head back there. I think what could have happened is that this leopard may have come down in the course of the evening and had a drink in the one corner of the dam, but we are going to still continue to track it and see where it's ended up. Who knows, maybe it's made a kill nearby, even though we do seem to be a little bit behind. It's really difficult to establish how fresh tracks are, whether they're from early last night or late last night. But certainly still worth following up on. It's warming up into a beautiful day now. As earlier it was freezing, Brian was saying it was difficult to control the camera and all the different buttons with his frozen fingertips. So that's something to bear in mind for us on the colder mornings. that are dropped out. Whoop. And what will happen is they will often defecate in this area, like this. And then they'll proceed to kick and drag their feet to get the scent onto their feet, and that's why there's this massive pile built up behind here. And the animal responsible for this is the white rhino. Now, you may be wondering why you haven't ever been shown them by us, because they're big animals and relatively easy to find. But sadly, rhino are under huge attack from poachers. The trade for rhino horn is in huge demand, and hundreds of rhino have already been killed this year in South Africa, and it really is a sad topic, and that's why we don't show them. We don't want to be in any way linked to any rhino that are poached, and because people can gain intelligence from where the rhino are by watching the show, even though it's very unlikely, we don't want to run that risk. So that is the reason why we don't show you white rhino, but they do occur here. And that is who is responsible for that massive pile of dung you can see. It's called the midden, and often different herbivores and also some carnivores will defecate in certain positions so that they become information hotspots. It almost becomes like an internet cafe where people can come in and gain access to intelligence within their own species. So with the herbivores, like I say, it's called the midden, and that's derived from a Dutch word. So the Dutch viewers may know a midem as a haystack. So that's where the word originates from. And you also get impala middens and certain other herbivores defecating in certain spots to communicate. And for carnivores, it would be called the latrine. And civets will defecate in certain areas. As one example of a carnivore, well, I guess it is omnivorous, that defecates in certain spots. So they can leave messages all over the roads and areas that they move, and that way not necessarily see one another and come into contact with one another, but still be able to know who's in the area, if any females are single and looking for love. These kinds of messages get left behind. Welcome back, everyone. So I hope you had some fun with Scott. We are currently in Arethusa. We're checking the last area where Shadow and Sandelia's tracks were seen. So I'm hoping that we find some fresh tracks from this morning. If not, we're going to keep meandering down towards the Arethusa waterhole and then move our way around. The last tracks were seen up to the north of us here, heading south. So I'm just trying to find if there are any tracks crossing the road. So Shadow really likes this area. There's quite a lot of little drainage lines, and that's quite a good area for to hunt. Lots of cover. Gilly from Milwaukee. Gilly is looking for an update on the wild dogs, the pregnant females that we've seen. The large pack, the half-tail pack, has denned
in a property quite far south of us. They do occasionally meander up this way while hunting, but it's not likely we're going to see too much of them for the next while. And the second pack, the pack of 5, no one has seen them for quite some time. The last time they were seen was in central Manuletti, so it's quite a strong likelihood they've denned in the Manuletti. So unfortunately, no dogs around for us. They might come through the area hunting like they did yesterday. We've had a report to the tracks, but they literally skimmed through our eastern, southeastern corner and were gone. Howard, the hyena tracks. So I got excited for a second, thought we'd find some leopard tracks. Morning, Edward. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari. Edward would like to know, when hyenas hunt for themselves, do they tear into prey like wild dogs, or do they first wait for them to die? Unfortunately, Edward, nature is quite brutal, and none of the predators will actually wait for them to die if there's more than one present. They will start feeding on the animals while they're alive, be it hyena, lion, leopard, wild dog. They will all start feeding while an animal can be alive. So sometimes quite hard to watch, but it is nature taking its course. And those prey species, by that stage, are in a serious state of shock. So it's unlikely that they are feeling much then. Come on, Shadow, where are you hiding? It is an absolutely stunning morning. I love the soft morning light, and as I said earlier, I do like the bush at this time of the year. So you can see the grass is down, so our visibility is better, so it gives us a better chance to spot things. The smells at this time of the year, you can smell the dust. Can be a little bit irritating sometimes, but I like it. And also the colors that you get in the sky, and you can actually, let me stop for a second so you can see. You can actually see the sort of dust and smoke level at this time of the year. If we start on the horizon and then go up, you can actually see that sort of layer of dust that's sitting in the atmosphere. And then as you go higher, it gets bluer, more blue. Always good to stop and listen every now and then, if we pick up any alarm calls. And you can see how blue the sky is above that sort of layer of dust. Thanks, Phil. And I can even deal with the cold at this time of the year because generally the game viewing is so fantastic. So while we are meandering around, we've had a look at these a few times before, but I'm going to see who can figure out what did this. Very, very interesting little thing. Now, this is a different type to the ones we've seen before. Very, very interesting. So who can tell me what did that, or what little hoho or insect did that? I'll let you know it is in a terminalia or a silver cluster leaf. I'll keep that there for just now. So it is in a silver cluster leaf, which is this tree up to the right here. And this one is particularly has been actually pushed down by elephants on the ground next to us here. So what insect would have caused a tree to form something like that? So I got a feeling we're going to find tracks on this junction. Junctions are really important places to start looking for tracks. Unfortunately, I was wrong. There are tracks, but not the tracks we're looking for. We're approaching the Arethusa waterhole, so we'll have a quick look. What is happening around the water? Oh, another nice road junction. Very peaceful setting here in front of Arethusa Safari Lodge. Usually have a very interesting sort of territorial structure. So hippos are only territorial in the water, even though they fight for territory in the water quite often. They are only actually territorial when they are in the water itself. So there will only be one dominant male here, and what will happen is he will tolerate a younger male up to a degree till that male becomes sexually active, and then he'll wait till he's old enough and big enough and strong enough, and he'll come challenge one of these dominant bulls for this area. And very difficult to sex the little hippos. So those little guys playing there, I'm not sure whether they're boys or girls. They could be either. And so the full name, a hippopotamus, is actually derived from Greek. It means water or river horse. Although they definitely don't look like a horse, but that is where the original name or the common name hippopotamus comes from. And quite interestingly, before humans removed them from a lot of their range in southern Africa, hippos are quite at home in saline water, so in estuaries. There's a big estuary called Lake St. called Lake St. Lucia, where they are still very common. So it was very common to find hippos in the mouths of these estuaries, which is probably where they got their Afrikaans name from, or their Dutch name. And that is a seer koei, which is basically a sea cow. And that is probably because when the first Dutch settlers and explorers came here, and they didn't really venture too much into the hinterland, into the interior, so they would hang around the edges, and they would have only seen the hippos at the estuaries. So that's probably where the Dutch name comes from. Hello, Dave, who's contacting us via the Twitter sphere. And Dave says he knows elephants can swim, but can hippos swim as well? Well, Dave, strangely enough, for an animal, we've got a very curious one coming. Oh, he just went under. We're being stalked by a little hippo. It might pop up again here. Oh, you can see where he's going. Follow the bubbles to the right. There we go. Coming, going. Oh, look at that, he's going. There he is. So, a little curiosity coming to have a look at us. And Dave, there we saw actually quite a good example. Hippos are actually unable to swim, and they run along the bottom. So that's what that little guy was doing. And sometimes when we see them looking like that, especially a little one like that in this water, it's probably standing on his back legs with his sort of feet in the air. And obviously being in the water, the buoyancy helps with their massive weight. Oh, he's gone into deep. Oh, has he just stayed in the same spot? Tricky little guy. So Dave, they're unable to, as I was saying, unable to swim. They do run along the bottom of the waters. That's how they get from deep water to shallow water. And we can see that under the water again. That movement, you can just see the sort of as he goes. Come to inspect us, decided we're not that interesting. You see that piece of vegetation disappear as he went past it? We're not that interesting, so heading back to his raft. Good morning, Carol and Claire from the Big Apple. Both Carol and Claire have some hippo questions. One is, do hippos mate in the water? And they do. It would be near impossible for a big male hippo with his body shape and size to be able to mate on the land. He would find it very difficult to climb up onto the female. So they do mate in the water. And actually, a couple of weeks ago, we actually were lucky enough right here to witness hippos mating right in front of the Arathusa Lodge. And the next question is, do they give birth in the water? Not so much in the water, but on the edge of the water, normally in a reed bed or somewhere quite close to the water, in very shallow water, they will give birth. So not under the water, but right on the edge of the water. It's amazing, they look so docile when we look at them now, but capable of great speed and great aggression. There we go. Hold on, William. Boom. So you notice how they didn't come down to the main part of the dam where we were to drink. They've gone specifically to that little corner there and that area. And that's because the water is quite a bit shallower there. And so they've got less chance of coming into contact with a crocodilian. And you can see they're quite jumpy and nervous when they're around the edge of the water. Firstly, because there's possible danger from in the water, from crocodiles. And secondly, when their heads are down, there's a possibility that a lion or a leopard might sneak up to them from behind. So they're very alert when they're drinking. Isn't this just a wonderful sight? see how alert they are. And I saw there was a couple of males there, and after the rutting's over, not so perturbed with fighting each other. And amongst the females, there's almost no hierarchy. Everyone's sort of the same. See, they just picked up some movement behind them and they lifted their head, but it's another male running in, but running past rather than running in. He might come around. He's running up now behind us. Let's see if he heads in towards the rest. So obviously the rutting season's just finished, so that's the impala's mating season, and so we're not going to see any sign of them being preggies until probably early November. Maybe in October we'll start seeing that distended belly when they get as the fetuses start developing. Oh, off, and off they go again. There's still some still drinking and come down for their morning drink, and they're now going to head off for a day of browsing and grazing. Now that's one of this year's babies that was born in November, December, and you can see how developed the horn is already. So they do grow quite quickly. Oh, running through frame. It seems like the herd is splitting a bit. They've now come down to drink on the other side of us. Oh, there's just some quite serious playing and running around going on to the right of us now. Incoming, high speed. These impala are full of the joy of morning. So you're not drinking for too long in one spot in case there's danger lurking. if you hear that click, that's just me taking a picture. Such a beautiful scene. Lovely morning light. Huge herd of impala. Well, I think they're going to do some running and jumping when they leave, so I'm just going to try to get into the position so we can see it. We might be full of that joy of life, the joy of the morning. If one goes, it sets them all off. Oh, big jump. So a few more on the way. We'll keep a lookout. See, they just suddenly decide that it's time to go. So I hope you guys are taking screenshots, and we'll see who's got the better shot, you or I. So impala are able to leap quite high, probably 2.5 meters straight in the air. But definitely not the champions of the jumping game. That would be the kudu and the eland, who can clear a 2-meter fence from a standing start. You can see now the only one left is the males, and they're not exactly going to run and jump around like very sedately walking after the ladies. Oh, hasn't that been fantastic? I'll just wait for... Oh, no, now he decides to run. I'm not very far. So 2 males trying to catch up with the rest of the herd as they move back into the broadleaf woodland, the Combretum woodland, to feed. Goodbye, gentlemen. Keep an eye on those ladies. Back to that, answers for the tracks, and the first 3 to get them in. Well done, guys. I'm going to have to make those tracks a bit harder. Gilly, Raisa, and Edward were the first to get those correct, and it was giraffe, impala, and zebra. Well, I'm going to have to find some obscure tracks to catch you now. Let me keep a lookout, see if I can find some nice tracks. We're going to make our way around towards the airstrip and maybe check along the side of the drainage line and see if we find any tracks of Shadow and Sindila. We're going to cross across the area through that dam wall. I'm still, oh look, there we go, there's those little bushbuck we saw a bit earlier. They've moved, actually quite a nice sighting from up here. There's another one. Oh, some on the road as well. They're all around. It's a little boy, it is too. So, oh, sorry, Natal Franklin. So you can see there's some bushbuck in the drainage line, and bushbuck are quite focused on, they live almost permanently around these drainage lines. And there's that little boy with an oxpecker on his back, and oh, is it an oxpecker? Yes, it's an oxpecker. You can see those tiny little buds of horns starting to develop. Oh, it's a juvenile oxpecker and a juvenile bushbuck. You can see it's a juvenile oxpecker by the fact that the red bill hasn't developed yet. It's still got a sort of a blacky grey bill. You can see they almost seem to consider every step. Very, very, very dainty in the way they walk. One of my favorite antelopes. I spent an incredible amount of time walking in mist-bolt forests in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands in my teenage years, and I have had some incredible sightings of them in the very early morning. And just developed a real soft spot for them. Real tenacious fighters as well. The males have been known to stand up to leopard and lion even and try to charge them and stab them. The record of one male bushbuck killing about 6 poaching dogs in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm going to try to get a little bit closer to these ones over there. One more, I need to be a little bit closer. I just want to show you the markings on their skin. No, don't disappear. I think we might get a view from a bit further forward. Maybe a gap there. Is that okay for you? Oh, disappearing. But if you look carefully as she disappears into that dark shadow, got these very delicate little white spots. Almost looks like someone's taken a paintbrush and just sort of dabbed. Maybe we'll try the other one, even though it's a bit further away. So very, very delicate little white spots on their rump, and might be a little bit too far away to see it nice and clearly from here. There we go, she turns, and it almost looks like someone's taken a paintbrush and very delicately dabbed little white spots there. And the Zulu name for them and the Shangaan name for them actually as well is wonderful. It's called Mbabala. Mbabala, the one who has been drawn on. So those tiny little white spots, and sort of picture someone with a paintbrush dabbing those little spots, and that name transfers into its Latin name as well. So it's a Truffalagus, which is one of the spiral-horned antelopes, so related to a Nyala and Kudu in Eland. Very loosely though, much more closely related to a Nyala and Kudu though. But the Latin name is Truffalagus scriptus, which is basically the one who's been written on or drawn on. So Mbabala, the one who's been drawn on. So really wonderful and very delicate markings, those little white spots. Okay, shall we continue on? Seems like from a predator point of view, Arathusa is a bit quiet this morning, but it is proving very, very fruitful with a lot of the antelope species so far. We've got some answers in on that thing, that little, we call it, nest, I suppose, that we took out of the silver cluster leaf a little bit earlier. So we're going to go, we just find that thing, and just get away from the back of the lodge, and we'll have a quick look at it. Left so many sticks. I've got my tracking stick, I've got my other sticks. I'm trying to find the stick with the nest in it. So I'm going to keep searching for it. I know it's in the car here somewhere. I think Vim stole it. Vim, why are you taking my sticks?
I ate it.
Vim ate my stick. I'm sure he'll regurgitate it by the time we come back. In the meantime, we're going to cross over to Scotty, and I think he's been up to mischief. So let's go find out what type of mischief he's been up to.
Welcome back, everyone, and there's some great news. Mvula is just up ahead of us. I didn't realize that there were 3 vehicles in the sighting, though, so as I arrived I had to quickly reverse because it's a limit to 3 vehicles per sighting, but I'm fairly certain one of them will make space for us shortly, so we'll just wait our turn. And I think Texan said we can continue. Yep, there he goes. So hold on tight, we might have to do a bit of off-roading. Thanks, Tex. How's it fun? Morning, everyone. And I can just see him slinking off into some shadows. It's not easy here, there's a lot of vehicles, so let's just continue and see what he does next. It is quite a thick block, so it is going to be quite tricky to follow him. I'm just going to stop here and we'll be able to get a quick view of him sneaking ahead of us. Beautiful. So it is tricking this thick bush. Also there's other vehicles here, as you know, but he's a beautiful big male leopard, one we did speak about last night at the fireside chats. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on here. There have been tracks of other male leopards in this area, so he could be on the trail of other leopard, but he's on the move and who knows what's going to happen next. Maybe he'll come across some food. Just going to stop here again. There's some beautiful morning sunlight that he's going to walk through. Look at that. Good. One or two falls, we have to squeeze through there. Sharp there, Brian. All good? Yeah, kudu alarm calling off to the side. It's a very dog-like bark, so it's obviously spotted the leopard. He's off to our right now. I'm just trying to get a little bit ahead of him. Oh, here we can hear the kudu continuing to bark. Let's see if we can get you a visual of it. Oh no, it's just run off. If I stop, you'll be able to hear it, and it may call a few more times. There we go. That's the bark. It is a very thick bush. You can very vaguely make it out there. And that's the kudu letting out the alarm to all the other animals that there is a big leopard in the area. Let's continue. I just want to keep an eye on this leopard because he is moving quite quickly. It's quite thick bush, so we don't want to lose him in here. Bit of a problem getting across this riverbed. I think we are going to need to. So let's look for a place to cross this riverbed rather than trying to keep an eye on the leopard, because if we don't get across here, we'll certainly lose him. He is heading away from us and will certainly cross at some point. It's not looking promising as we go further up here. May be able to squeeze through here. Okay, hold on everyone. This is going to be interesting. Let's see what happens. It's very, very steep now. I think we can make it fairly safely. Hold on tight, everyone. Brian, you okay there?
I'm holding on.
Okay. Nice and slowly. There we go. Oh, that was easier than expected. Okay. We should be somewhere up ahead of us. We can often lose track of how quickly they're moving. Okay, well, it may take us a while to find this leopard, and we may not find it at all. So while Brian and myself focus on trying our best to do that, we're going to send you back to Brent. He's got something he's ready to show you, so we'll see you a bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh, great that you guys have found Mvula. And a leopard's generally harder to find than a stick in your car. But I'm still searching for that Terminalia branch. Give me a few seconds now. Of course, me being me, I've managed to spread out across the whole vehicle with a lot of paraphernalia. So I'm busy trying to see where I might have put that little stick. So just bear with me for another minute. Otherwise, I just need to go find another Terminalia branch Too many books, I tell you, too many books. Okay, we're just going to have to go find another one. I think that is the only solution. And it has given me an opportunity to possibly tidy up my stuff a little bit, pop the books back in the book box instead of all over the car. Okay, got my other box back. What did I do with the... there we go. I do have something for you to look at, and Vem is on the right track there with that bone. Have a look carefully over here. I'm going to show you in a second on the dashboard. Now that I've nearly got myself in some semblance of order. Okay. So we have a rib bone here. I'm not sure of which animal. It could be, judging from the vertebrae and stuff lying around here, probably from a zebra. But the thing we're looking at here is very interesting. We often, well, over the last while, we've seen bushbuck and giraffe eating on bones, but they are not the animals. You can see very distinct, let me take my hat off here, distinct little cuts into that rib bone there. And that is very interesting. That's tiny little teeth marks that have made those indentations on this rib. And I'm going to guess from where we're out in the open on the Arathusa airstrip, so it's unlikely to have been a squirrel. So it's almost definitely some of those bushveld gerbils or some of the other smaller rodents that we have in this area that have been feeding off this bone to get calcium. And so while I mission on to try find another terminalia branch with the exact same configuration as the one I had earlier, Scott is back with Mvula, so go enjoy some leopards while I go search for a tree.
Welcome back, everyone, and we've got very lucky. We managed to relocate on Mvula, this beautiful male leopard, and it was as he was crossing over a road. We just caught a glimpse literally of his tail. If we were a second later, we would have missed him. And as you can see, it's quite thick here, so there would have been no way of following his tracks through this area. It does open up a little bit more shortly, so then we'll be able to get you some visuals, but he's just in front of us, and I'm sure soon we will have you a good view. Interestingly, while we were coming into this area this morning, we did have tracks of another male leopard coming into the area, so it would be interesting to see if he is following the trail of this other male leopard. It's really thick in here, so I'm going to try and plan my route ahead of him carefully. Going to stop and let Brian show you a quick glimpse of him. You can just see him moving off up ahead there. Neil, it's Scott. You can make your way into the area. He's in very thick bush south of Mumba Road heading towards Drakensberg. Apologies. It's not Drakensberg, Leadwood, just head south of give him a bit of space because it is very thick. We don't want to chase off anything ahead of him. So we'll give him a little bit of space, but just keep an eye on him. So that we don't lose him. We are just going to have to be patient to get some great views of him. You can see he's listening very intently up ahead, and predators will often stop to listen, to smell, to make sure they don't chase off any prey or stumble into any potential threats like lion. And isn't he just so beautiful? You'll notice, just like the Anderson male, he has that large flap of skin on his chest and running up below his throat. A true sign of a big dominant male leopard. May help a little bit when they do fight with one another. It's a little bit of extra loose, and they may be gripped onto by another leopard. Similar in a degree to a lion's mane, but possibly it is just the size of their brute strength and a characteristic of males. That doesn't really provide any major purpose. Go ahead. Apologies, Craig, I thought maybe I'd moved out, but he is still in the area, so it's 3, Neil's the 3rd. But currently no one with me. I am in the middle of a very block, but heading towards Rockensburg. Affirmative. This is going to be great. Brief. Okay, well, we've heard some interesting news. I have just been told that Nikki thinks this is apologies for the chat on the radio, folks, but we do need to keep the other guys updated as much as possible. It wouldn't be wise for them to try and come in. Okay, we just got a question through from Ellen, and she would like to know, how do I know that it's a different leopard? Well, judging from the direction that this leopard's been moving in and where it was located this morning, compared to where we found tracks of, in all likelihood, another male coming from the opposite direction, leads me to believe that it is a different one. It could be the same one doing big circles in the same area. And we've been talking about this for quite some time now. Will we get to see a clash between male leopards, or at least some interaction? He's sniffing very intently around this burrow. It could be warthogs that use it as a home. And male leopards will often hunt warthogs. It can be quite an easy item of prey to hunt. Look at that. If you're willing to be patient and lie in wait. Well, Blair, Ellen, and Georgia all think that this is Tingana. So it's not only Nikki, but a few other viewers. So it was misidentified by the guides here, and I just continued using their name. And it just goes to show how easy it is to mis-ID a leopard. They would have assumed it's Mvula because it's in Mvula's territory, deep into his territory, and wouldn't have taken a closer look. Had it have been in another area of Djuma, they may have looked more closely and then realized that it's Tingana. Stations, this looks like Tingana, not Mvula. Again, he's listening very, very intently. His tail twitching very slowly from side to side. Maybe we'll hear him vocalize. It's not something that we've got to show you very often. And that would be really wonderful. The fact that he's stopped for so long now may mean that he can sense something nearby, maybe by smell or by hearing. I am surprised to see how long he's spending here. A rattling testicular spots in him, and that's the bird you can hear crying out in an alarm. Oh, scent mark? Maybe he'll vocalize afterwards. And maybe the other male leopard who was moving through this area also came to investigate this termite mound. And possibly it's the scent that he's smelling of this other leopard. Beautiful. Look at him, he's going to scent mark again, yeah. There we go.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Let's hope we're going to be able to cross this little riverbed. Oh! Well, he's laid down, so we may have a little gap. I think it will be squeezing through here. Brian? Thank you, sir. Brian's got incredibly long arms, which absolutely awesome. We're very, very close to him and he's completely relaxed with us. What? How lucky are we to be following this big cat as he goes about his daily business? And it was apparently the notches in the ears which gave away Mvula to some of the viewers, Ellen, Georgianne, and I forget the other name. He looks fairly well fed in this position. Not bloated, but I think he may have had a meal fairly recently. I'm just going to update the guys and let them know that he's now stationary and no longer moving towards them. The station's Tingana is now Lalapa. But if you guys want to try and come in, you're more than welcome. If you hear my audio. Still moving south and east. Thankfully moving to a slightly more open area now, which is going to make our lives a little bit easier for the time being. I'm just going to try and once again sneak ahead of him a little bit, get you some views of him walking towards us, but as I say that, it's lucky. Gave the engine a little rev there to help Craig know where we are. He may try and
attempt to join us in the sighting by using our vehicle audio. As we got into a little gap to show you, okay, he's going to walk alongside us here. This should be great. He did cross Mamba Road. Those are different track sticks. Copy, I did last time. Did you not copy anything? I'm fairly certain that this leopard is trying to track down another leopard whose tracks I have seen moving in this general area. And if you're wondering why I'm revving, it's to try and help Craig get into the sighting. It's the only way to best explain where we are, is for him to listen. Eliza in Alberta would like to know if an animal's ever scent marked on one of our vehicles. And never in my history has an animal done that. They usually have fairly set points where they like to scent mark, or will use, in this case, he may be scent marking on where Mpula has scent marked previously. Craig, Mobile East. Virginia in Kentucky has asked an interesting question. Why do leopards not sleep as much as lions? And that's not necessarily the case. It may be that we just see leopards mobile more in the daylight, but I think they do sleep for long periods of time. And sometimes we are just lucky to follow them on the move. And they may sleep a lot more at night. Which makes you realize how lucky we are to be following him. Oh, the tree squirrels just started alarm calling at him. Okay, well, it's crisscrossing through this thick bush, making our lives a little bit interesting. But we still have a visual of him. The tracks that we had of another leopard were heading in this direction towards where we are, down this road that he has just crossed over. So if you look down there, Brian, this long road, right at the top of it, we had other leopard tracks coming towards us. So that's what makes me think he is looking for another male leopard. Cross straight north over Number and towards the drainage line. At the moment he's moving along the western side. There has been a believed sighting of and that's why at any other moment now another male leopard could erupt out of this bush and we could see some phenomenal interaction that I've yet to see in my career. Look at how intently he's listening and twitching that tail from side to side. Something's got his attention here. The tracks of that other male leopard seemed very, very fresh. We're in for something here. We're in for a bit of a show. Fairly certain of it. Looks like he's now going to cross onto the eastern side of the small drainage. He is quite close by, and I'd rather let him move off before we continue to crash through this dead tree in front of us. Brent is still following up on tracks of Shadow, a female leopard that this male has mated with, and is the father of her cub Sindile in all likelihood. Isn't it wonderful to know that Brent is out tracking another leopard that is so closely interlinked with the leopard we're viewing here. We are so lucky that we get an insight into these animals' lives. You can see he's not sure what to do next. And this behavior is making me think that he's getting possibly closer to this male leopard. Maybe he can smell it. Maybe he can smell a kill. They've possibly been having an argument all night, vocalizing from afar. And that's often how they will communicate, but there'll come a point in time where one of them will be fed up with just chatting and discussing matters, and a fight may need to ensue in order for them to establish actually who is boss. You can see him, he's sniffing the ground very intently here. Craig, if you just come line that negative, he's in the drainage line that crosses through Mamba, so drive along Mamba until that's do we think Tingana knows another male leopard's here? Why do I keep saying he's looking for Mvula? Well, when we were approaching the leopard tracks coming towards him, and that's what makes me think that he is not the only leopard here. There is a chance that it is his tracks, and I've got your visual there. If you just come in to the block. But I think it's a combination of possibly the fact that they could have vocalized from afar, like I just said, so know one another's vague whereabouts, and now he may have come here to pick a fight. This is all speculation, and I could be wrong. That's affirmative. From where I saw you, you just head straight into the block. Well, this is a new name, X-Ranga from Tasmania. Good to have you with us, and interesting that you've noticed that he's walking with his mouth open. And is that common for them? I think it's because it's heating up, it's quite warm, and he's been covering a lot of distance. So I think it's in order to pant and keep cool. But it also could be a small combination of getting more scent into the mouth area, but typically they will grimace their lips to open up a special sense organ within their mouth to help better process smell. And I'm not sure if that organ does process unless, of course, they are grimacing. When leopards move like they have moved today, he's crossed over 2 roads, and we've been following him for probably more than a month. Bush. Sometimes they move in a general direction, which makes life easier for us. But the way he's behaving today, Craig, he's stationary on the other side of my vehicle. In a short while.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. Just to give you a quick update what Viam and I have been up to. We tracked Shadow for quite a long way, and she's actually come back into Juma. So we lost the tracks around Zoe's Road. So she's between quarantine and here in a very similar area to where we saw those lions yesterday. And it is a snake track. Very difficult to tell which. Those are the 2 snake species we get here that move like this with tiny little as opposed to this that you get from the other snake species. So very, very interesting. Nice little, not a particularly big snake, but still in this nice soft sand, so nice and easy to see. Other than that, we've actually been up to quite a bit. We found some of Shadow's dung, and interestingly enough, that Panthera are running a project now to do paternity on leopards, and they're looking for genetics and from the epithelials, that epithelials are skin tissues that will pass through when that leopard defecates. There'll be epithelials on the edge of the dung. So we've collected a sample for them. And you can see all the information, the date, where I collected it, who collected it, who's the leopard, and male or female. and the species and the age. So, nice little bit to help out with the leopard, the ongoing Panthera leopard project that's here in the Sabi Sands. So we'll try to do our best to help out those guys. So the information that you're getting on leopards is absolutely incredible, and a lot of the stuff has never been found before. So I'll hand that in when we get back from drive. Also, oh no, not again. Oh no. We did manage to find another Terminalia gall, and we asked what it was, and so we managed to find another one, and I lost the last one, so I had to go pick another one. So well done to Edward and Chrissy. It is more than likely a Terminalia gall wasp. And I don't think it's an ant, because there's also an ant. We just change the angle. Bit better now. So we can see all those little where the individual wasp larvae would have come out. These little holes here. And what happens is the wasp will actually sting the plant, causing it to release a growth hormone, and it creates these really hard cases, there we go, that you can actually see how the individual wasp larvae would have been in there before hatching. So it provides a nice protective casing for the baby wasps. So really, really interesting. And there's a species of wasp called the Terminalia gall wasp that will only do this to the silver cluster leaf, and also a gall ant that will only do it to the silver cluster leaf. There are other gall wasps and gall ants that focus on other species, but in this area, this is the most common. So we're going to meander around down towards Vuyatela Dam. Hi, Ramey. Nice to have you on the vehicle, Ramey. Ramey would like to know how I know it was shadows done. Well, Ramey, I found it from the last area she was seen. But also, it can, once you start spending a lot of time tracking these animals, we'll guess upon the territory that the thing is. And obviously now, what's incredible, what you've seen with Scott, is how deep Tingana has gone into Mvula's territory. That is definitely the furthest east we've ever seen Tingana. But like with Karula's got very small dating footprints, and I can generally, we're never 100% sure, I can say that those footprints are Karula's, just from where we find them and the size of them. Shadow's got slightly bigger footprints than Karula, so that makes it more difficult. She could, but generally in that area, she's the only female leopard we see regularly. Hi, Edward. Edward has got a comment that says, how many books do I carry on drive? It seems like I was turning through a library. We've actually got a very pretty bird there. So used to be called a red-billed wood hoopoo, now called a green wood hoopoo. Hopefully pops around. Let's go around the... Oh, there we go, coming back. No. Let's go around the other side of the tree. They are very noisy birds. And the Zulu name is actually quite a good one. Let's see if they start calling for us. Oh. Get a good view. You'll see its beak. Oh, no. Blindable. If not, there comes another one flying in a bit higher. There we go. So you can see that very specialized shaped bill, how it's probing underneath the bark. And it's called a green wood hoopoo. And there we go. And they can actually get that bill underneath the sort of plates of bark on a marula. And they, see, there we go, sliding it in the tiniest little gap to try and get any larvae or grubs out. And the Zulu name for these birds, as I said, was quite a good one, quite an interesting one. And the Zulu name for them is Sharabafaz. And when they do move in a group, they make a lot of noise, loud cackling. And the Zulu name means the cackling woman, and said to sound like ladies working in the fields, all talking to each other at really loud notes. Wood hoopoo call with me. But back to your question, Edward, how many books do I carry with me? Well, let me see, one. So we've got birds, wildflowers, medicinal plants. So that's 3 so far. We've got another, I got a tree book. I have a reptile book. I have a frog book. I have indigenous healing book. I have another tree book. I have a butterfly book and a big mammal book. But there you go. That's just some of them, and I got a bunch more at home in my room. I don't think you can ever have enough books, and you can never know enough about the bush. So there's something new to learn every day. So we're going to say goodbye. It's been absolutely fantastic having you with us on the Sunrise Safari. Thanks again for all the questions, and thanks to everyone in Final Control, and happy birthday to Nikki again. So from Viam and myself, we're going to hand you over to Scott and the magnificent Tingana for the last little bit, and we'll catch up with you on the Sunset Safari. And a lilac-breasted roller to end.
Welcome back, everyone, and we are still with an now sleepy Tingana. It was very thick here, so I tried to make some space for Craig and his guest to finally get a view of him. There we go. So whatever that Mvula and Tingana were recorded fighting was in 2013, and I'm told that it was a very close bout, but apparently Mvula won. Now, that's quite some time ago, and Mvula has aged, and Tingana has matured more into his prime, you could almost say. So that's why that it's probably likely, if they were to have an encounter now, Tingana would be the victor. And it's been evidenced because he's happily pushing deep into Mvula's territory, and Mvula doesn't seem to be doing much about it, because if he didn't tolerate Tingana, then he wouldn't be here. But as you can see, we are now deep into Mvula's territory. So really interesting stuff that goes on here. It's important to say, though, Blair, that just because the last documented fight was only in 2013, is not to say that they haven't had several more since then, and it is believed that the two of them were seen. And thanks very much to Brent for also contributing so much to the drive, especially while we were changing our flat tire that set us back for a little bit. And thanks all of you for watching the show. I hope you've enjoyed the sighting of Tingana. It's the longest that I think I've ever actually spent with them on camera today, as well as Tara, who was in final control, and Nikki lending her a hand. Take a view at him for the last few seconds, and we'll see you all on the sunsets.